Imagine a monster weighing 140 tons, a true giant that had to be transported in parts and assembled right on the battlefield under artillery fire. Its frontal armor, 200 millimeters thick, was a real fortress that no Allied anti-tank gun could penetrate from a distance of over a kilometer. A 128 millimeter gun, and in plans even 150 millimeters or 173 millimeters, could tear enemy tanks apart from long range. This is a real project of Nazi Germany called Panzerkampfwagen E-100, or simply E-100. But here's the paradox. This most terrifying tank of World War II never fired a single shot in battle. It never even received a complete turret. How did it happen that a machine designed as an absolute weapon remained only an unfinished chassis in the dust of a German testing ground? To truly understand why the E-100 appeared exactly then, you need to move to Germany of 1944 to 1945. The war is already irreversibly lost. The Eastern Front is falling apart. The Soviet Union is advancing with massive forces. The Americans and British land in Normandy and push deep into the continent. Factories are constantly under bombing. Allied aviation methodically destroys industry. Fuel is worth its weight in gold, chromium, molybdenum, nickel. Everything is lacking. Panther and Tiger, two tanks, are still fighting, but their production is complete chaos. Hundreds of modifications, constant design changes, complex repairs in field conditions. Each Tiger, too, required enormous resources, and the result at the front was far from expectations. And exactly at this moment, when the country was already drowning in defeat, the German leadership decides that they need not just more tanks, they need an even bigger tank. This was not cold calculation, but simply desperation. This is how Wunderwaffe, miracle weapons, were born, believed in as the last chance. The concept of the E-series Entwicklung development appeared precisely as an attempt to bring order to this chaos. The idea was standardization. To create a single line of tanks of different weights with maximalno unified components. E-10 light reconnaissance, E-25 medium tank destroyer, E-50 main battle tank to replace Panther, E-75 heavy to replace Tiger II, and finally E-100, the Vershina of the pyramid, a 100-ton, but in practice 140-ton super tank. Unification promised miracles. One type of engine, one transmission, one suspension, one repair logic. Spare parts could be transported less, repairs simplified, production became cheaper and faster. On paper, it looked brilliant, a way to save an industry already burning under bombs. But as often happens with totalitarian regimes, the most ambitious and expensive project received priority. Instead of mass production of simple machines, the dream of one invincible monster. The technical characteristics of the E-100 sound like science fiction even today. Combat weight about 140 tons, length of the hull with the gun over 11 meters, width 4.48 meters, height 3.38 meters, frontal hull armor 200 millimeters at an angle of 60 degrees, turret up to 200 to 232 millimeters, side hull 120 millimeters, rear 150 millimeters. It was planned to install the same 128mm gun that was on Jagdtiger and Maus, with penetration over 200mm of armor at 1 kilometer. 149mm or even 173mm guns were also considered for even greater destructive power. A coaxial second gun, 75mm, for fighting infantry and light vehicles. Crew of 6 people. Commander, gunner, 2 loaders, driver, radio operator. Range about 100 to 190 kilometers. It was a small battleship of the land front. But the E-100 was not just unfinished. It fundamentally could not operate in real war conditions. Bridges in Europe, especially old stone and railway ones, would not withstand 140 tons. The tank would simply fall into the water. An engine of 700 horsepower for such mass gave specific power of only 5 to 6 horsepower per ton, speed like an old tractor, and turns a real torture for the transmission. Fuel consumption would be astronomical and logistics impossible. Even transportation by rail was planned only with narrow transport tracks and removed side skirts. The most absurd thing is that due to the weight the tank was supposed to be transported in parts, hull separately, turret separately, tracks separately. Imagine before battle, under artillery fire, the crew and technicians assembling a 140-ton giant like a giant construction set. This is simply absurd theater. For comparison, let us recall Mouse, the previous monster weighing 188 tons. Mouse already had 2 prototypes. One was even tested, but the results were catastrophic. It got stuck in mud, broke down at every step, consumed fuel like a whole company of tanks. Hitler himself eventually ordered to stop work on Mouse in 1944. However, the idea of super heavy tanks did not let go. The E-100 was positioned as an improved version, lighter by 48 tons, simpler to produce, with unified parts from Tiger II. But it was the same path, instead of admitting the mistake, to take another step into the abyss. The most interesting turn is who exactly built this monster. Not Krupp, not Porsche, not Henschel, but Adlerwerke, a company from Frankfurt that before the war was famous for motorcycles and passenger cars. That is engineers who yesterday designed elegant civilian sedans and motorcycles for peaceful life, now were drawing a 140-ton beast with armored plates the thickness of a human height. Work began back in June 1943, but slowly. At first, only drawings in March 1944, then assembly of parts in Paderborn, later in Haustenbeck, near the Henschel testing ground. Adler was responsible for suspension and hull, and Henschel for final assembly. But even with 3 workers assigned to the project in 1944, nothing was achieved in time. Why was the tank never completed? The Allies were approaching, resources were finally exhausted. In July 1944, Hitler ordered to stop development of super heavy tanks. Priorities shifted to anti-tank guns, Panzerfausts, and jet aircraft. By spring 1945, only the chassis was ready, with installed Maybach HL 230 engine, transmission, and Henschel L 801 steering system. There was no turret at all. It was not even started. The most powerful tank in the world stood without its main weapon. In April 1945, American troops of the 751st Field Artillery Battalion entered the Haustenbeck testing ground near Paderborn. They found the unfinished E-100 chassis among other experimental machines. Later, the British took it, transported it through Nürnberg Bridge. There are photos. Delivered it to Great Britain to the testing ground in Bovington. There it was carefully studied, measured, photographed, and tested for strength. But they quickly realized there was no point. Mobility is terrible, logistics impossible, and in battle it is an easy target for aviation and artillery. In the 1950s, the prototype was cut into scrap metal, possibly used as a target for firing. Today, nothing physical remains of it, only photos and drawings. E-100 is a vivid symbol of the desperation of a regime that believed in Wunderwaffe as a lifeline. Jet Me 262, V-2 rockets, super tanks. All these were attempts to turn the course of the war with one strike, when nothing could be saved anymore. This is the psychology of a losing player. Instead of stopping and admitting defeat, to throw all forces into the last, most insane move. Instead of thousands of reliable Panzer IV or Stug, one monster. Instead of logistics and mass production, dreams of invincibility. That is why the story of E-100 is one of the best lessons of military history. Bigger does not mean better. Technology without logistics, without fuel, without roads, is useless. Wars are won not by giants, but by mass production, efficiency, simplicity, coordination. Panther became the perfect balance, Tiger II the limit of what was possible, and E-100 crossed this limit and fell into the abyss. Modern tanks, M1 Abrams, Leopard 2, Challenger 2 all weigh 60 to 75 tons. Why? Because E-100 and Maus showed that gigantism is a road to nowhere. Today, E-100 can only be seen in photos. Only one prototype existed, a chassis without a turret. After tests in Britain, it was dismantled. But unique photos remain. A lonely hull on a testing ground, Allied soldiers near it, transportation over a bridge, as well as reconstructions in museums, models in scale 1 to 35. Write in the comments what you think about this tank and which tank you would like to see in the next video. Thank you for watching.